The blood trail in the snow told Marcus Hayes everything he needed to know. Fresh, human, and leading straight into the mouth of Devil's Cave. He'd been tracking elk since dawn, rifle slung across his shoulder boots, crunching through the knee-deep powder that had fallen overnight on Pine Ridge. February in the Colorado Territory was unforgiving, but after 5 years living alone up here, Marcus had learned to read winter like scripture. Every broken branch, every disturbed drift, every sound the wind didn't make. They all meant something, but this blood was different. Too much of it. Too desperate in its pattern. Marcus knelt beside a crimson pool already crystallizing in the -10 cold. His gloved fingers traced the droplets leading away from it. Small footprints. Barefoot. A child. Lord Almighty! He whispered, his breath fogging in the bitter air. The tracks staggered. Fell got up again. Whoever this was, they were running from something. Or someone. And they were dying. Marcus unslung his Henry rifle and checked the chamber. 15 rounds. He'd faced Confederate cavalry with less. But that was a different life before Sarah, before the fever took her and their unborn child, before he'd climbed this mountain to forget what living felt like. The cave mouth yawned black against the white hillside. He could walk away. Should walk away. Whatever tragedy was unfolding in that darkness wasn't his burden to carry. He'd carried enough. But then he heard it. A sound so faint it might have been wind through rock. A child's whimper. Marcus entered the cave. The darkness swallowed him whole, but his eyes adjusted quick. 20 feet in, pressed against the far wall, like a wounded animal, was a little Apache girl. 8, maybe 9 years old. Her dress was torn, her feet bleeding, her black hair matted with blood and snow. She clutched her left arm to her chest, and even in the dim light, Marcus could see the unnatural angle of her wrist. Broken, she saw him and tried to scream, but only a rasp came out. "Easy," Marcus said, setting his rifle against the cave wall, showing his empty hands. "Easy now. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl's eyes darted to the cave entrance, then back to him. She tried to stand, but collapsed immediately, her legs refusing to hold her weight. Marcus had seen fear before, seen it in Confederate boys barely old enough to shave, seen it in Sarah's eyes when the fever dreams took her. But this was different. This was the fear of prey that had been hunted too long. "My name's Marcus," he said, pulling off his coat slow and deliberate. "What's yours?" The girl just stared, her whole body shaking. Not from cold, Marcus realized. From shock. He needed to move fast. Hypothermia would kill her before whatever she was running from could circle back. Marcus approached like he would a spooked horse, talking low and steady. "I got a cabin about a mile from here. Got a fire going. Food. Medicine for that arm." He held out his coat. "You're gonna freeze if we don't get you warm." She spoke, then her voice barely a whisper, accent thick with Apache syllables shaped around English words. They coming. Bad men coming." "Who's coming?" "Men who took Mama. White men. They say I'm worth good money." Young Apache girl. Her eyes rolled back and she started to fall. Marcus caught her before she hit the stone floor. She weighed nothing like a bird made of hollow bones and desperation. Her skin was ice against his neck as he lifted her. "Mama fought," the girl mumbled into his shoulder, delirious now. "She cut one with kitchen knife. They shot. So much blood. Told me run. Run to the caves," she said. "White soldier lived in mountain. Maybe he help." Marcus's jaw tightened. Sarah had treated Apache women at the trading post before she died. Word must have spread about the Union veteran on Pine Ridge, about the man who didn't ask questions and didn't pick sides. He wrapped the girl in his coat and carried her from the cave. The storm was picking up, wind howling like wolves. Each step through the deep snow was a battle, but Marcus had fought harder battles with heavier loads. In the war, he'd carried wounded men twice his size through Mississippi mud. This little girl felt like carrying a ghost. She mumbled in her fever dreams, mixing Apache words with English. Mama said, "Fine soldier." Mama said he lost family too. Mama said he understand pain. Marcus's chest tightened. Even dying women knew his story. How Sarah had begged him to save their baby. How he'd held her as she burned with fever. How he'd buried them both beneath the apple tree that never bloomed again. The cabin appeared through the swirling snow like a promise. Marcus kicked open the door and laid the girl on the bearskin rug before his hearth. The fire was dying. He fed it quickly, coaxing flames back to life. The girl's eyes fluttered open. You the soldier." I was." Mama said, "You good man. Said you help Apache before." Marcus grabbed his medical kit, the one he'd kept from the war. "Your mama's smart. What's her name? Sahara. Like the desert. She say she coming for me. Then we better make sure you're alive when she gets here." He worked, quick-setting the broken wrist-cleaning wounds, wrapping her feet in cloth. The girl, Luna, she finally told him between sobs, passed out as he worked her small body, finally giving in to exhaustion. Marcus sat back on his heels, watching her breathe. Outside, the storm raged, but in here, by the fire, one broken child slept safe. For now. He didn't know what men were hunting her. Didn't know if her mother was even alive. But Marcus Hayes knew one thing with the certainty of a man who'd already lost everything once nobody was taking this child. Not while he still drew breath. Not this time. Marcus Hayes hadn't meant to become a ghost story, but 5 years living alone on Pine Ridge had a way of turning a man into legend. The Apache called him Silent Thunder, the soldier who walked with death but wouldn't take it. The white settlers in Willow Creek, 20 miles down the mountain, simply called him that crazy Hermit Hayes. Both were right in their own way. The morning after he found Luna, Marcus stood at his window, watching the snow fall steady and relentless. The girl slept on her fever, finally broken her breathing even. He'd moved her to the bed, his bed, and spent the night in the chair by the fire rifle across his lap, listening for sounds that didn't belong to the storm. Pine Ridge wasn't just remote, it was the edge of the world. The cabin sat at 8,000 feet, where the air grew thin and the trees grew twisted, where even summer felt like autumn and winter tried to kill you every day from November to May. Marcus had built it himself, log by log, after Sarah died. Every beam, every stone in the chimney, every nail in the floor, they were all hammered in by hands trying to forget. The place had become him, or maybe he'd become it. Sparse, functional, alone. "You don't talk much, do you?" Marcus turned. Luna was awake, propped up on one elbow, studying him with those dark eyes that seemed older than her years. "Didn't know you spoke English so well," he said. "Mama taught me. She said we need to know both worlds to survive in neither." She winced as she tried to sit up further. "You got coffee. You're 8 years old. 9. And I've been drinking coffee since I was 5. Marcus almost smiled. Almost. He poured her a cup, half coffee, half warm milk, and brought it to her along with a plate of beans and salt pork. "This all you eat?" she asked, wrinkling her nose. "This is what keeps you alive up here." Luna took a bite, chewed thoughtfully. "Mama makes better food. Rabbit stew with juniper berries, acorn bread, pine nut soup." Her face fell. She made better food. "She's alive," Marcus said firmly. "You said she fought. Fighters don't die easy." The girl looked at him for a long moment. "You lost someone." It wasn't a question. "How do you know?" "The way you look at that photograph, you keep turning away from me. The woman's dress hanging in the corner, you think I didn't notice. The baby blanket in that chest you opened last night when you thought I was sleeping." Marcus said nothing. Smart kid. Too smart for her own good. "Her name was Sarah," he finally said. "My wife. Died 5 years ago, along with our child. Fever took them both." "Is that why you live up here, to be close to them?" "I live up here to be away from everything else." Luna sipped her coffee milk, processing this. Mama says the dead don't stay where we bury them. They go where they're loved most. Maybe your Sarah isn't up here. Maybe she's wherever you are." Before Marcus could respond, she continued, "Tell me about before, when you were a soldier." Marcus rarely talked about the war, but something about this child, half dead and fully alive, made the words come easier. "I was with the Colorado 1st, Union Army, fought at Glorietta Pass, Apache Canyon." He paused. "Your people helped us once, gave us water when we were dying of thirst in the desert. That why you helped me. I helped you because you needed help. Most white men wouldn't." "I'm not most white men." Luna studied him again with those two old eyes. "No, you're broken like Mama says she is. She says broken people either become sharp enough to cut others or soft enough to understand pain. You're soft. Your mother sounds like a wise woman." "She is. She'll come for me." "How can you be sure?" "Because she promised, and Sahara never breaks promises to me. Never." Marcus spent the rest of that morning learning about the girl and, through her, about her mother. Sahara was 28, widowed 3 years ago when cavalry soldiers mistook her husband for a hostile and shot him at a trading post. She'd survived by working wherever she could, washing clothes, mending, translating between Apache bands and white traders. Then the bad men came. Luna said, her voice dropping. Mama called them flesh traders. They came to our camp saying they wanted to trade for pelts, but they saw the women, saw me. How many men? 5. Big one with a scar, he's the leader. McGrath, they called him. He offered Chief Standing Bear money for me. Said young Apache girls fetch high prices in Mexico. Chief said no. McGrath said he'd be back. And he came back. Luna nodded, tears starting. 3 days ago. But Mama knew. She was ready. When they came at night, she was waiting with a knife. She told me to run, find the soldier on the mountain. Said you'd understand what it means to protect what you love. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, like ice cracking on a frozen river. These men, they still hunting you. They hunting Mama more. She cut McGrath deep across the face. He won't forget that. Marcus stood, checked his rifle again. 15 rounds. He had more ammunition in the cabinet, an old Army Colt 45 in the drawer, and a shotgun above the door. Might not be enough if 5 men came calling, but it would have to do. You think I'm gonna die? Luna asked quietly. No. How you know? Because I already let one child die. Not happening again. The words came out harder than he meant, but Luna just nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Loss had a way of aging you, no matter how many years you'd actually lived. That afternoon, as Luna slept again, Marcus prepared. He reinforced the shutters, checked his ammunition, filled every bucket with water in case they tried to burn him out. He'd seen enough war to know that men who traded in human flesh wouldn't stop at one escaped girl. They'd want payback for the cut, for the humiliation. As the sun set, painting the snow pink and gold, Marcus heard something that made his blood run cold. Horses. Multiple riders moving slow and careful up the trail. He grabbed his rifle, checked the load. Luna stirred but didn't wake. Then he saw her, a lone figure on foot staggering through the snow, using a tree branch as a walking stick. Even from 100 yards, Marcus could see the way she moved, injured, but determined, broken, but unbeaten. Her long black hair whipped in the wind. Blood stained the deer-hide dress she wore, but she kept coming, step after agonizing step. Behind her, maybe half a mile back, Marcus spotted the riders. 5 men, just like Luna said. They were following her tracks, taking their time like wolves running down wounded prey. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He stepped out of the cabin, rifle raised, and fired a shot into the air. The sound echoed across the valley like thunder. The woman looked up, saw him, and ran, not away, toward him, toward the cabin, toward her daughter. The riders spurred their horses. And Marcus Hayes, who'd come to this mountain to die slowly and alone, realized he was about to find out if he remembered how to fight for the living. The The woman stumbled into the yard, and Marcus saw her face clearly for the first time. High cheekbones, fierce, dark eyes, a strength that poverty and loss hadn't been able to break. Blood ran from a gash on her shoulder. Her hands were torn raw, probably from fighting. But she stood straight when she saw him, chin raised, ready to fight him too if necessary. "My daughter," she gasped. "Luna, is she inside, alive, safe?" Something broke in the woman's face then. Not weakness, relief. "They're coming," she said. "I know. 5 of them. I can count." "You don't have to. Get inside." Marcus cut her off. "Get to your daughter." She looked at him for one long moment, this stranger who held her whole world in his cabin. Then she nodded and ran inside. Marcus worked the lever on his Henry, chambering around. The riders were 300 yards out now, close enough to see their faces. McGrath was in the lead, a bloody bandage wrapped around his head where Sahara had cut him. Marcus had been many things in his life: farmer, soldier, husband, widower, ghost. Time to be a soldier again. The riders stopped just outside rifle range, and Marcus knew they were smart. McGrath raised his hand, and his men spread out in a half circle, cutting off escape routes. Standard tactic. Marcus had used it himself in the war. Inside the cabin, he heard Sahara's voice, low and urgent, speaking Apache to Luna. Then silence. Then the sound of a rifle being loaded. The woman knew how to handle a weapon. Good. Marcus called out through the cracked door. "That's close enough, gentlemen." McGrath rode forward just a bit, enough to be heard clearly. His voice was rough, like he'd been gargling gravel. "You got something that belongs to me, friend. Don't recall seeing your brand on anyone here. The woman and the girl, they're bought and paid for. Last I checked, Lincoln freed the slaves." McGrath laughed, ugly and short. "Indians ain't people under the law, friend. They're property. I got papers from the territorial judge saying I can collect runaways. Then your judge can come collect them himself." Marcus saw McGrath touch the bandage on his face, saw him wince. "That bitch cut me deep. That's assault on a white man, hanging offense. Seems to me a man who gets cut by a woman probably deserved it." The memory hit Marcus, then sudden and unwanted. Sarah, with a kitchen knife, trying to protect herself from the fever dreams, not recognizing him screaming that strangers were trying to take her baby. He'd had to hold her down, had to take the knife away, had to watch her eyes fill with terror at his touch. She died, thinking he was the enemy. "You don't know what you're getting into, Hermit," McGrath called. "We know who you are. Marcus Hayes, Union deserter. Oh yeah, we checked. You went AWOL after Glorieta Pass. Never officially discharged." That wasn't true, but it didn't matter. Truth was negotiable out here. "I've got 5 men," McGrath continued. "You've got what? 15 rounds in that Henry. Maybe a sidearm. You might get 2, maybe 3 of us. But the others will burn that cabin down around your ears. That how you want to die? For some Indian trash." From inside, Marcus heard Luna whimper, then Sahara's voice singing soft and low. An Apache lullaby. The same melody Sarah used to hum when she was pregnant, said she'd learned it from the Apache women at the trading post. The past and present blurred. Marcus had been 23 when he met Sarah. She was the daughter of a Methodist minister come west to save souls. Marcus had been recovering from a bullet wound in the Army hospital, and she'd volunteered to read to the soldiers. She read him Ecclesiastes of all things. To everything there is a season. He'd fallen in love with her voice before he ever saw her face. They'd married quick before his unit moved out. Had 3 days together, 3 perfect days. Then the war stretched on, and by the time he got back, she was different. Harder. She'd seen too much death in the hospital wards, held too many boys as they died, calling for their mothers. "I want to go somewhere clean," she'd told him. "Somewhere we can start over." So they'd come to Pine Ridge, built the cabin together. She'd gotten pregnant that first winter, and for a brief moment, everything seemed possible. Then the fever came in spring when the snow melt brought mosquitoes and bad water. Marcus watched her die for 7 days, watched the baby die inside her, watched her claw at her own skin trying to tear the fire out of her veins. At the end, she didn't even know him. "You killed them," she'd screamed in her delirium. "You brought death home from the war. It followed you here." Maybe she was right. "You got 1 minute to decide." McGrath shouted, pulling Marcus back to the present. Marcus felt a hand on his shoulder. Sahara stood beside him, her daughter's Winchester in her hands. Up close, he could see the bruises on her arms, the rope burns on her wrists, but her eyes were steady. "You don't know me," she said quietly. "You don't owe us anything." "Maybe not." "Then why?" Marcus thought of Sarah's grave marked with stones he'd carried up from the valley. Thought of the small grave beside it, too small, marked with a wooden cross that read, "Baby Hayes." "Because I've got ghosts enough already. Don't need yours too." Sahara studied him. "You lost a child, among other things. The losing never stops, does it? It just gets quieter. Sometimes quiet is all we get." She nodded, understanding in a way that only the broken could. "Luna told me what you did. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We're probably about to die." "I've died before," Sahara said. "When they killed my husband, when they came for my daughter, each time I had to choose to come back, to keep breathing, even when the air hurt." She looked at him. "You know what that's like." He did. "What's your plan?" she asked. "Don't have one." "That's not very encouraging. Plans get people killed. Better to react to what is than what might be." Through the window, Luna watched them, her young face old with understanding. She'd seen too much for 9 years. Just like Marcus had seen too much by 19. War did that. Loss did that. Made children into adults and adults into ghosts. "Time's up." McGrath called. Marcus made a decision. He stepped out onto the porch rifle, raised but not aimed. "Here's my counteroffer. You ride away now, and I don't report you to Fort Carson for trafficking in human beings. They've got a new commander there, Colonel Morrison. He's got particular feelings about slavers." It was a bluff. Morrison had been dead 2 years. But McGrath wouldn't know that. "You're bluffing." "Maybe." "Want to find out?" McGrath considered. "Then how about this? You give us the woman, keep the girl. She cut me. That demands satisfaction, but I'm willing to let the child go." "No." The word came from behind Marcus. Luna stood in the doorway, the big Colt .45 held in both her small hands. "You don't take Mama. Not again." "Luna, get inside," Sahara hissed. But the girl stood firm. "I know what you do to girls like me," she said to McGrath. "I heard you talking. Heard you say what price I'd bring in Mexico. Heard you say what men would do to me first." Marcus felt sick. She was 9 years old and already knew what evil looked like. "I won't go." Luna continued, the heavy gun shaking in her hands, but her voice steady. "And you won't take my mama. We have a new father now. He's a soldier. He kills men like you." New father. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. McGrath laughed. "That broken-down deserter. He couldn't protect his own family. What makes you think he can protect you?" And there it was. The truth Marcus had been running from for 5 years. He hadn't protected them, hadn't saved them, had let them die while he sat helpless, all his war-learned skills useless against an enemy he couldn't shoot. But Luna didn't know that story. She only knew that a stranger had carried her through a blizzard, set her broken bones, and stood between her and the monsters. Sometimes that's all faith is, believing someone will save you because they tried to once. "Get inside," Marcus said quietly to both of them. "Now." They retreated, and Marcus stood alone on the porch. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting everything blood red. "Appropriate. Last chance, Hayes," McGrath called. "We can do this easy or hard." Marcus thought of Sarah's last coherent words to him before the fever took her mind. "Promise me you'll live. Promise me you'll find something worth saving." He'd thought she meant himself. But standing here now with a wounded woman and frightened child behind him, he understood. She meant this moment, this choice. "Come and take them," Marcus said and chambered around. The first shot came from the left splintering wood beside his head. Marcus dropped, rolled, came up firing. His first shot took a rider in the shoulder, spinning him off his horse. The second went wide. The third caught another man in the chest. Then the cabin door flew open and Sahara was beside him, firing with deadly accuracy. She'd learned to shoot somewhere somehow. Her third shot took McGrath's hat off, made him duck. "Inside!" Marcus shouted as bullets crashed through the windows. They scrambled back, slamming the door, shoving the heavy table against it. Luna was under the bed, eyes wide but not crying. Tough kid, tougher than she should have to be. "They'll burn us out," Sahara said, reloading. "No. Fire would be seen from town. Bring questions. Then they'll wait us out." "Maybe." Marcus was counting rounds, calculating angles when he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Horses, but not from the front. From behind. Someone was coming up the back trail, the old game trail only locals knew about. "Marcus Hayes!" A new voice called out. "This is Judge Samuel Morrison from Willow Creek. I'm here with a legal warrant for the arrest of one Jake McGrath on charges of human trafficking." Marcus almost laughed. Morrison was alive after all, and someone, maybe Luna's scream in the cave that morning, maybe the smoke from the firefight, had brought help. Through the window, Marcus saw McGrath's men looking at each other, calculating odds. 5 against 2 had been good. 5 against a judge's posse was another thing entirely. "This ain't over, Hayes," McGrath shouted, wheeling his horse around. "Not by a long shot." They rode off into the gathering dark, and Marcus finally let himself breathe. Sahara sank to the floor, shaking. Luna crawled out from under the bed and into her mother's arms. They held each other, crying, alive. Marcus stood watch at the window rifle, still ready. He'd learned in the war that victory was usually just a pause before the next battle. But for now, in this moment, they were safe. Judge Morrison rode up to the porch, an old man with kind eyes and a deputy's star pinned to his coat. "Heard you might need some help up here." "How'd you know?" "Apache rider came to town this morning. Said Sahara and her daughter were in trouble. Said they'd gone to find the hermit soldier." Morrison smiled. "Figured that had to be you." Marcus looked back at Sahara. "Your people?" She nodded. "I sent word before we ran. Hoped someone would listen." "The Apache remember their debts," Morrison said. "Just like you remembered yours to them, seems like." As Morrison and his men made camp outside, offering protection through the night, Marcus sat by the fire with Sahara and Luna. They didn't talk much. Didn't need to. They'd all been broken by loss, haunted by ghosts, marked by violence. But tonight, they'd chosen to fight for each other. Tonight, that was enough. Tomorrow would bring its own battles. McGrath would be back in some form or another. Men like him always came back. But looking at Luna asleep in her mother's arms, at Sahara's fierce eyes reflecting the firelight, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in 5 years. Purpose. Maybe Sarah had been right. Maybe death had followed him home from the war. But so had the ability to protect, to stand between evil and innocence. He'd failed once. He wouldn't fail again. Judge Morrison and his men left at first light, but not before the old judge pulled Marcus aside. "McGrath won't forget this," Morrison said, adjusting his coat against the morning cold. "Men like him, they got pride bigger than sense. He'll be back." "I know. I can post a deputy up here." "No need. Deputies just make bigger targets." Morrison studied him. "You were at Antietam, weren't you? I remember reading the dispatch. Sergeant Marcus Hayes held a bridge against 2 Confederate charges. That was a long time ago. Not so long that you've forgotten how to fight." Morrison glanced back at the cabin where Sahara was tending to Luna. "They're not your responsibility, you know." "Neither was that bridge." Morrison smiled, sad and knowing. "Sarah would be proud." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You didn't know Sarah." "I knew her father, Reverend Mills. He wrote to me after she died, asked me to check on you. You never let me. Didn't need checking on. No, you needed to grieve. There's a difference." Morrison mounted his horse. "That woman in there, she's strong. That child, too. Maybe strong enough to help carry whatever you're hauling around." After Morrison left, Marcus stood in the yard, watching the dust settle. The morning was crisp clear, the kind that made the mountains look close enough to touch. He could hear Sahara inside singing to Luna in Apache. The melody was different from the lullaby, older, maybe a healing song. He walked back in to find them at the table, Luna drawing with a piece of charcoal on brown paper Marcus used for wrapping meat. She was drawing horses' stick figures and what looked like a cabin with smoke coming from the chimney. "That's us," Luna said without looking up. "See, that's you tall one. That's Mama. That's me. We're safe inside. It's a good drawing. I'm going to make more. Show how we live here now." Sahara looked up at him, question in her eyes. They hadn't discussed what came next. The immediate danger had passed, but the larger question remained. Where did they go from here? "I need to hunt," Marcus said, running low on meat. "I'll come," Sahara said quickly. "Your shoulder is fine. I've had worse." She stood, and he saw her wince slightly. Not fine then, but functional. "Luna can stay here, bar the door." "I'm not a baby," Luna protested. "I can help." "You can help by keeping the fire going and starting the beans," her mother said. "We'll be back before dark." They took the Winchester and the Henry, leaving the Colt with Luna despite Sahara's protests. "She's 9, Marcus said. "She's Apache," Sahara countered. "We learn young that the world has teeth." They walked in silence for the first hour, following a deer trail that wound up through aspens and pine. Marcus led reading sign, but he was aware of Sahara behind him, how she moved silent despite her injury, how she watched their back trail without being told. "You've done this before," he said. "My husband taught me. Before the soldiers came, we lived free, hunted together, traveled together." She paused. "He was a good man." "What was his name?" "Samuel Crow Feather." Sam. He spoke 4 languages, could read and write in 2. The missionaries loved him, thought they'd converted him. She smiled slightly. He just liked their books. They found deer sign near a creek, fresh tracks in the mud. Marcus knelt studying them. 3 hours old, maybe 4. "There," Sahara whispered, pointing through the trees. A young buck, maybe 2 years old, grazed in a meadow 50 yards off. Easy shot. Marcus raised the rifle, then stopped. The deer was small, wouldn't feed them long. "Wait," Sahara breathed. An older buck emerged from the trees, magnificent 6 points on each antler. This one would provide meat for weeks. Marcus sighted, breathed out, slow, squeezed the trigger. The shot echoed across the valley. The buck dropped clean. As they dressed the deer together, Sahara working with practiced efficiency, she said, "Luna wasn't lying about seeing you as a father." Marcus's hand stilled on his knife. "She's confused, traumatized." "No, she's clearer than most adults." Sahara looked at him across the carcass. "She chooses you." I can't be. "Can't be what good, kind, protective?" Sahara's voice was steady. "You've already been all those things. I failed my own family. You didn't fail them. Disease took them. There's a difference. Tell that to my wife's ghost." Sahara was quiet for a moment. Then, "I talk to Sam sometimes. At night, when Luna's sleeping. Tell him about my day. Ask his advice. Sometimes I even hear him answer." She looked at Marcus. "Do you talk to Sarah?" "No." "Why not?" "Because she died hating me. Thought I brought death home from the war. The fever made her think that. Not her heart." Marcus didn't answer, focused on the work, but something in his chest loosened slightly. They were hauling the meat back when Sahara stumbled, her injured shoulder finally giving out. Marcus caught her, held her steady. She was warm against him, solid and real in a way nothing had felt in years. "I'm fine," she said, but didn't pull away. No, you're not. They stood there, her back against his chest, his arms around her waist, both breathing hard from exertion and something else. This is happening too fast, Sahara said quietly. What is? This feeling. Like I know you. Like I've been walking toward this cabin my whole life. Marcus knew what she meant. From the moment she'd staggered into his yard, something had clicked into place. Not love, not yet, but recognition. Like looking at a map and finally understanding where you were. The Apache believe in meant to be, Sahara continued, that some souls agree to find each other before they're born, even across war, across loss, across impossible odds. You believe that I believe I was meant to bring Luna here, to you. She turned in his arms, looked up at him. The rest we decide. They were close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, could smell the sage and wood smoke in her hair. It would be easy to kiss her, easy to pretend this was simple, but nothing about this was simple. McGrath will come back, he said. I know. I might not be able to protect you. I don't need protecting. But Luna does. Sahara's hand came up, rested on his chest. She needs a father who won't leave, won't die, won't sell her for drinking money. Can you be that? Marcus thought of his own father, drunk and mean quick with his fists. Thought of the father he'd planned to be before death took the chance. I can try. That's all anyone can do. They made it back to the cabin as the sun touched the mountain peaks. Luna ran out to meet them, the Colt tucked in her belt like she was a tiny gunslinger. I made dinner, she announced proudly. Beans and... She paused. More beans. Sounds perfect, Marcus said, and meant it. That night, after Luna was asleep, Marcus and Sahara sat by the fire. She was mending his shirt, he was cleaning the rifles. Domestic in a way that should have felt forced, but didn't. I need to tell you something, Sahara said. About McGrath. About why he wants me specifically. Marcus waited. 3 months ago, I was working at the trading post. McGrath came in drunk. Tried to... She paused, choosing words carefully. Take liberties. I fought him. Broke a bottle over his head. That's when he decided I needed to be taught a lesson. When he found out I had a daughter young and pretty, he saw profit and revenge together. I should have killed him today. No, you did right. Death brings more death. My people know this. Your people also know justice. Justice and revenge wear different faces, but walk the same path. She set down the sewing. I didn't choose to come here, Marcus. I was running desperate, would have gone anywhere. But now that I'm here, now that I see you with Luna, see how you treat us with respect instead of pity or desire. She trailed off. What? I choose to stay, if you'll have us. Not because we need shelter, but because Luna needs a father, and maybe you need us too. Marcus looked at her. This woman who'd survived hell and still had softness in her voice. I'm not an easy man to live with. I have nightmares. Sometimes I don't talk for days. I forget to eat, forget to sleep. I sing in my sleep. Luna asks 1,000 questions before breakfast. We'll drive you crazy within a week. Probably. They smiled at each other, small but real. So, Sahara asked, stay, both of you, long as you want. And if McGrath comes back, then we face him, together. Sahara stood, moved to him, kissed his forehead, gentle as falling snow. Thank you. She went to check on Luna, and Marcus sat alone by the dying fire. For the first time in 5 years, the cabin didn't feel too big. The silence didn't feel too heavy. He pulled out Sarah's photograph, the one he kept in his chest pocket. She was smiling, hand on her pregnant belly, standing by the apple tree that first spring, young and hopeful and unaware of what was coming. I'm not replacing you, he whispered to the image. Could never do that. But they need me, Sarah, and maybe I need them. Maybe this is what you meant about finding something worth saving. The photograph didn't answer, but somewhere in the wind outside he could almost hear her voice. Then save them, Marcus. Save them all. A coyote howled in the distance. Luna murmured in her sleep. Sahara hummed an Apache lullaby, and Marcus Hayes, who'd come to this mountain to die, slowly began to remember how to live. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. 2 Apache riders, a man and woman, approaching slow, with hands visible. Marcus recognized the universal sign of peaceful intent. Sahara gasped, ran out to meet them. Joseph, Mary. They dismounted, embraced her carefully. The woman, Mary, checked Sahara's wounds with practiced hands, while Joseph, tall and scarred, studied Marcus with dark, measuring eyes. "This is my brother," Sahara said to Marcus, "not by blood, by choice." "And his wife." Joseph extended his hand. Marcus shook it, felt the strength there. "You helped my sister," Joseph said in clear English. "We owe you." "No debt. There's always debt. Good or bad, it must be balanced." Joseph looked at the cabin, at Luna watching from the doorway. "The tribal council sent us to make sure Sahara was safe, to deal with McGrath if needed." "He's already been." "He's dead," Joseph said flatly. "Found him this morning at his camp. Throat cut. His men scattered." Marcus felt Sahara stiffen beside him. "We didn't," she started. "We know. Someone else got there first. Left a message." Joseph pulled out a piece of paper, handed it to Marcus, written in charcoal. "The girl is under protection. Try again, and more will die." No signature, but Marcus recognized the symbol drawn below. A thunderbird. Apache protection mark. "Who?" Sahara asked. Mary spoke for the first time, her voice soft but certain. "The grandmothers. They decided. No one sells Apache children, not anymore." Marcus understood. The elder women of the tribe, the ones who'd lost too much, already had taken justice into their own hands. "Will there be retaliation?" he asked. "From whom McGrath had no friends, only men he paid. They won't avenge him." Relief and unease warred in Marcus's chest. The immediate threat was gone, but violence had a way of echoing. "Stay," Sahara said to Joseph and Mary. "Rest. Eat." They stayed for 2 days. Joseph helped Marcus reinforce the cabin, sharing stories of his time scouting for the army before the betrayals became too many. Mary taught Luna traditional songs, braided her hair with beads she'd brought. The night before they left, Joseph pulled Marcus aside. "Sahara is strong, but she's been broken too many times. She needs someone who won't break her again." "I know. Do you white men take Apache women sometimes? Use them. Discard them." "I'm not that kind of man." "Prove it." "How?" Joseph smiled then, the first time Marcus had seen it. "Marry her. Not white man's way, taking what you want. Apache way. Ask her family. That's me. Promise before witnesses. Make it real." Marcus looked through the window at Sahara, laughing at something Luna had said, more alive than he'd seen her. "When she's ready, if she'll have me. She's already chosen. I see it in how she looks at you. Like you're home." That night, after Joseph and Mary left with promises to return, Marcus found himself standing with Sahara under the vast scatter of stars. Luna slept inside, finally safe, finally at peace. "Joseph likes you," Sahara said. "He threatened me." "That's how he shows affection." They stood quiet, shoulders touching. "Are you angry?" Marcus asked. "About McGrath?" "No. Relieved. Guilty about being relieved. Grateful to the grandmothers." She sighed. "Complicated. Most truth is." She turned to him, then starlight catching in her eyes. "Joseph said something before he left, about you wanting to marry me." Marcus's breath caught. He shouldn't have. "Is it true? Sahara, we barely know each other. I know you carried my daughter through a blizzard. I know you stood between us and evil men. I know you look at me like I'm whole, not broken." Her hand found his. "I know enough. It's too soon. By whose measure, we're not in Boston or Denver. We're here at the edge of everything where tomorrow isn't promised." She squeezed his hand. "I'm not saying now. I'm saying someday. When you're ready to let Sarah rest. When I'm ready to trust again. But someday. Someday Marcus agreed and felt something shift in his chest, like ice breaking up in spring. They stood there until the cold drove them in, but something had been decided under those stars. Not love yet, but the possibility of it. Not a family yet, but the foundation of one. Inside, Luna had woken, had been watching through the window. "Are you going to marry Mama?" she asked Marcus directly. "Luna," Sahara scolded. "Maybe," Marcus said to the child. "Would that be okay?" Luna considered this seriously. "Only if you promise 3 things." "What 3 things?" "First, you teach me to shoot better. That Colt is too heavy." "Deal." "Second, we get a dog. A big one." Marcus smiled. "I know where we can find puppies." "Third," Luna's voice got quiet. "You don't die. You don't leave. You stay." Marcus knelt down to her level, looked her in the eye. "I can't promise not to die. Nobody can. But I promise to fight to stay alive, to always come home if I can." "That enough?" Luna nodded, threw her arms around his neck. Over her shoulder, Marcus saw Sahara crying silently, hand over her mouth. This was it. The moment everything changed. Not dramatic, not grand. Just a child's hug and a mother's tears, and a broken man discovering he might not be so broken after all. 3 weeks passed in a rhythm that felt both foreign and familiar. Morning coffee, chopping wood. Luna's endless questions about everything from why snow falls to where the stars go during daytime. Sahara teaching Marcus Apache words while she cooked. Him teaching her to read maps to navigate by stars. It was after one particularly quiet dinner that Judge Morrison returned, this time alone, his face grave. "We need to talk," he said, accepting the coffee Marcus offered but refusing to sit. "What's wrong?" Morrison pulled out a folded paper from his coat. "This came through the territorial office. Federal marshals are investigating McGrath's death. They're looking for Sahara." Sahara's hand found Luna's shoulder, gripped tight. "I didn't kill him." "I know that. You know that. But McGrath had connections back east. Railroad money. They're pushing for someone to hang." Morrison looked at Marcus. "There's a way to protect her." "How?" "Marriage. Legal marriage. A white man's Apache wife can't be compelled to testify, can't be taken without her husband's consent. And Marcus, your war record still carries weight. Medal of Honor recipients don't usually harbor criminals." Marcus felt the words hit him like cold water. Marriage as protection, not choice. "That's not," he started. "It's practical." Sahara interrupted, her voice steady. "We do it. Tomorrow, if needed." Sahara. She looked at him, and he saw the fear she was hiding from Luna. "I won't let them take me. Won't let Luna be alone." Morrison cleared his throat. "There's more. If you marry, you can file for legal adoption of Luna. Make her yours under law. No one could take her, then sell her nothing." Luna looked up at Marcus. "You'd be my real father. I'd be your legal father." "What's the difference?" Marcus knelt down. "Real fathers are the ones who stay. Legal is just papers saying what's already true." Morrison left them with the papers and a promise to return in the morning to witness. After Luna went to bed, Marcus and Sahara sat across from each other at the table, the marriage certificate between them like a loaded gun. "This isn't how it should be," Marcus said. "How should it be? I should court you, ask your family properly. You should have time to decide if I'm worth the risk." Sahara laughed short and bitter. "Time. When have people like us ever had time?" She reached across, took his hands. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. Yes, this is for protection, but it's not only that. What else is it? It's me choosing the first good man I've met since Sam died. It's Luna getting a father who won't hurt her. It's—" She paused. "It's maybe finding something neither of us expected to find again." "You barely know me." "I know you have nightmares about Antietam. You call out coordinates in your sleep. I know you can't eat beans without cornbread because it reminds you of field rations. I know you touch Sarah's photograph every morning, but haven't looked at it in a week." Marcus's breath caught. She'd been watching him as carefully as he'd been watching her. I know you sing to yourself when you think no one's listening, he said. Always the same song, something about returning home. I know you're teaching Luna to hide food in case you need to run again. I know you check the windows 17 times before bed. 17. I counted. They smiled at each other, sad and knowing. If we do this, Marcus said, I need you to understand, I might never love you the way I loved Sarah, and I might never love you the way I loved Sam. But maybe we can love each other in a new way, a way that includes the ghosts but isn't ruled by them. Marcus stood, walked to the window. Outside, snow was falling again, soft and silent. I haven't been with anyone since Sarah. I know. That doesn't bother you. Sahara joined him at the window. Marcus, I'm not marrying you for your body, though it's not unpleasant to look at. She smiled when he blushed. I'm marrying you for safety, yes, but also for the way you are with Luna, the way you treat me like a person, not a conquest or a burden. Is that enough? It's more than most women get. That night, they prepared as if for ceremony. Sahara washed her hair with melted snow, and Yucca Root braided it with the beads Mary had left. She mended her best dress, the one with blue fabric worked into the deer hide. Marcus shaved for the first time in months, trimmed his hair, put on the shirt Sahara had mended. Luna watched it all with serious eyes. You're really doing it. We are, Sahara said. Will things change? Marcus considered lying, saying everything would stay the same, but Luna deserved truth. Some things. Your mother and I will share the big bed. You'll have your own space in the loft. We'll be a legal family. Will you kiss? Sahara laughed. Eventually. Will you have more babies? Luna Sahara scolded, but Marcus saw her glance at him, curious about his answer. Maybe, he said, if we're blessed. Luna nodded, satisfied. I want a brother. Sisters are too much trouble. That night, Marcus made a decision. He pulled out the small wooden box he'd hidden beneath the floorboards 5 years ago. Inside, wrapped in silk, was Sarah's wedding ring. Simple gold band, nothing fancy. He'd bought it with his first army pay. He found Sahara outside looking at the stars. I want you to have this, he said, holding out the ring. She looked at it, understanding immediately what it was. Marcus, no. That's Sarah's. Was Sarah's. She's gone. You're here. He took her hand, slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly, which seemed like either a sign or a cruel joke. She would want it used, not buried. Sahara turned the ring, watching it catch moonlight. Are you sure? No. But I'm doing it anyway. She kissed him, then quick and soft, more promise than passion. Tomorrow then. Tomorrow. But tomorrow came with complications. Morrison arrived early, but he wasn't alone. A federal marshal rode with him, tall and stern-faced, badge prominent on his chest. Marshal Conway, Morrison introduced. He insisted on coming. Conway dismounted, eyes scanning the cabin, the yard settling on Sahara. You're the Apache woman who worked at Milligan's trading post. I am. You know McGrath was murdered. I heard. Where were you 4 nights ago? Here, Marcus stepped forward. With me, all night. Conway's eyes narrowed. And you are Marcus Hayes. This is my land, my cabin, and this woman is about to be my wife. Convenient timing. Marshal Morrison intervened. I've already explained. Miss Sahara has been here for weeks. I personally saw McGrath threaten her and the child. If someone killed him, they did the world a favor. Conway studied them all, suspicious but without proof. Fine, but I'll be watching. Indian killings have a way of spreading. After he left, Morrison performed the ceremony, quick and simple. No flowers, no music, just words on paper and promises made at a kitchen table. Luna stood as witness, small face, serious as a judge. Do you, Marcus Hayes, take this woman as your legal wife? I do. Do you, Sahara Crow Feather, take this man as your legal husband? Sahara hesitated just a breath, and Marcus saw her touch the ring. Sarah's ring now hers. I do. Then by the authority vested in me by the Colorado Territory, you are married. They signed the papers. Morrison signed. Luna made her mark, careful X with tongue poking out in concentration. Now the adoption papers, Morrison said, producing another set. This felt bigger somehow than the marriage. Marcus was taking responsibility not just for a woman who could care for herself, but for a child who needed everything. Luna, he said, you understand what this means. You're my father now, forever. Even if you get angry with me, even if you want to leave someday, even if you make me eat beans every night, even then. She grinned. Good. Sign it. He did. Morrison left them with congratulations and relief. The immediate legal danger had passed, but as the three of them stood in the cabin now officially a family, the weight of what they'd done settled. Now what? Sahara asked. Now we figure out how to live together. That first night as husband and wife was awkward. They lay in the big bed, Luna in her new loft space above, neither touching nor talking. Marcus could hear Sahara breathing, could smell the sage in her hair. This is strange, she finally whispered. Very. Should we do something? Like what? I don't know. Married things. Marcus turned to look at her in the darkness. Sahara, we don't have to do anything. This is protection, remember. Just protection. You tell me. She was quiet for so long he thought she'd fallen asleep. Then, I haven't been with anyone since Sam. I know. I'm scared. Of me. Of wanting you. Of you not wanting me. Of doing this for the wrong reasons. Marcus reached out, found her hand. We have time. No rush. She squeezed his fingers. Thank you. They fell asleep, holding hands, nothing more. But it was enough. It was a beginning. The next morning brought unexpected challenges. Luna woke with a fever, burning hot, coughing rough. Sahara went into immediate action, boiling willow bark, making poultices. It's the same thing that took Sam's mother, she said, fear creeping into her voice. Lung fever, it moves fast. Marcus felt cold dread. Another fever, another person he was supposed to protect. What do you need? Medicine from town. Real medicine. Laudanum for the pain, quinine if they have it. I'll go. The storm. He looked outside. Snow was falling, heavy wind picking up. It would be dangerous riding, could be deadly. I'll go, he repeated. Sahara grabbed his arm. Marcus, if you don't come back, I'll come back. But if you don't, then you take Luna and run. Go to Joseph. Don't wait for me. She pulled him down, kissed him hard, desperate. Come back. That's an order from your wife. The word wife still felt foreign, but the fear in her voice was real. Marcus saddled his horse and rode into the storm. The trip usually took 2 hours. In this weather, it would take 4 if he was lucky. If he wasn't lucky, they'd find his body in spring. But Luna needed medicine. His daughter, legally now, emotionally already, needed him to be the father who stayed, who fought, who came home. He tucked his chin and rode harder. In town, the pharmacist tried to refuse him. That medicine's for white folks. Marcus slammed his Medal of Honor on the counter. My daughter needs it. Your daughter's Apache. My daughter's dying. Something in his voice, maybe the desperation or maybe the implied threat, made the pharmacist relent. Marcus paid triple the normal price and didn't argue. The ride back was worse. The storm had become a blizzard. He couldn't see 10 feet ahead. The horse stumbled repeatedly. Twice Marcus had to dismount and lead it by hand, following the ridgeline by memory more than sight. When he finally saw the cabin lamp burning in the window like a lighthouse, he almost cried. Sahara met him at the door, took the medicine, didn't even pause to kiss him before running to Luna. Marcus tended the horse, his hand so cold he couldn't feel the reins. Inside, Sahara was already administering the medicine. Luna's breathing was shallow but steady. Will she make it? Marcus asked. With this, maybe. Without it, no. Sahara looked at him. Really looked. His coat was frozen solid ice and his beard lips blue. You almost died. But I didn't. For her. You almost died for her. She's my daughter. Sahara started crying, then silent tears that seemed surprised to exist. You mean that? Of course I mean it. No, you don't understand. Apache men, when they marry a widow, sometimes they take the children as obligation. Feed them, house them, but never love them. Not really. But you. She touched his frozen face. You claim her. I chose her the day I found her. Just took the law a while to catch up. Luna's fever broke just before dawn. Marcus and Sahara had stayed up all night, taking turns bathing her with cool water, forcing medicine between her lips. When she finally opened her eyes, clear and focused, they both sagged with relief. Did I miss anything? Luna asked weakly. Just your parents' first fight, Sahara said. We didn't fight, Marcus protested. You rode into a blizzard without proper supplies. You needed medicine. You could have died. But I didn't. Luna looked between them. That sounds like a fight. They laughed, exhausted and relieved, and suddenly aware that they'd been operating as a unit, as parents, as partners. No more scares, Marcus said to Luna. My heart can't take it. No promises, Luna said, already sounding more like herself. I'm officially your daughter now. Pretty sure scaring fathers is what daughters do. She was right, Marcus realized. This was family, not the one he'd planned, not the one he'd lost, but the one he'd found, or that had found him. That night, Sahara moved closer to him in bed. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For proving me right. About what? That I chose well, even if it was too fast. Marcus pulled her against him, her back to his chest, and held her. Still nothing more than comfort, but closer than before. Building toward something neither of them could name yet, but both were beginning to trust. Outside, the storm continued, but inside they were warm. They were safe. They were family. Spring came late to Pine Ridge that year, but when it arrived, it transformed everything. The snow melted in rushing streams that sang down the mountainside. Wildflowers pushed through the mud. The aspens budded pale green, trembling in the warming wind. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching Luna chase a butterfly, her laughter echoing across the meadow. 3 months had passed since the hasty wedding, since the adoption papers were signed, since they'd become a legal family. But legal was one thing. Real was another. She's different, Sahara said, joining him. Lighter. Children heal faster than we do. Or they hide it better. Marcus glanced at his wife. They were still careful with that word. Wife, husband, like it might break if handled roughly. They shared a bed, but nothing more. Held hands sometimes. Had kissed exactly twice since the wedding, both times initiated by her, both times ending before they really began. We need supplies, Sahara said, changing the subject. Flower salt ammunition. Luna needs new boots. She's growing. I'll go tomorrow. We'll go. All of us. Marcus tensed. They hadn't been to town as a family yet. People will talk. Let them. Sahara. Marcus, we can't hide forever. Luna needs to see other children, needs to know the world is bigger than this cabin. She was right. He knew she was right, but the thought of facing the stares, the whispers, the judgment made his chest tight. That night, Luna crawled into bed between them, something she did when nightmares came. Marcus woke to find her curled against his side, Sahara's arm draped over both of them. For a moment, in the pre-dawn darkness, they were just bodies seeking warmth. Just family. Papa, Luna whispered. Marcus's heart clenched. She'd been calling him that for a week now. He still wasn't used to it. Yeah. Are you happy? The question caught him off guard. Why do you ask? You look sad sometimes, when you think we're not watching. Sahara stirred but didn't speak, listening. I'm not sad, Marcus said carefully. I'm adjusting. To us. To being happy again. It's been a while. I'm out of practice. Luna considered this. Mama says happiness is like riding a horse. Once you learn, your body remembers. Your mama's smart. She also says you're afraid to touch her. Marcus felt Sahara tense beside them. Luna, Sahara warned. It's true you told Mary when she visited. Said he treats you like glass. Time for sleep, Sahara said firmly, but Marcus heard the embarrassment in her voice. Luna sighed dramatically, but settled back down. Within minutes, she was asleep again. Marcus lay awake, acutely aware of Sahara's breathing, of the space between them that felt like miles, despite Luna's small body bridging it. I'm not glass, Sahara whispered finally. I know. Do you? He didn't answer because he wasn't sure he did. The next morning, they loaded the wagon and headed to town. Luna sat between them on the bench, chattering about everything she saw. A hawk circling, fresh deer tracks, the way the light hit the valley like gold paint. Willow Creek appeared around the bend, and Marcus felt his shoulders tighten. The town wasn't big. One main street, a few shops, a church, a saloon, a school. But it was civilization, and civilization had opinions. They stopped first at Morrison's office. The judge greeted them warmly, made a fuss over Luna complimented Sahara's dress. If he noticed the way other people stared through his window, he didn't mention it. There's something you should know, Morrison said quietly while Luna explored his bookshelf. Conway's been asking questions about McGrath, about the Apache who might want him dead. The grandmothers, Sahara said. He can't prove anything, but he's stirring up sentiment. Some folks are saying all Apache should be moved to the reservation for their own protection. Their own protection, Marcus repeated flatly. I know how it sounds. I'm fighting it, but fear makes people stupid. They left Morrison's office and walked to the general store. Marcus could feel eyes on them, hear the whispers stop as they passed. Luna noticed two pressed closer to Sahara. Inside the store, Mrs. Pritchard, the owner's wife, looked at them like they'd tracked manure on her clean floor. Help you, she asked, tone making it clear she'd rather not. Supplies, Marcus said, handing over his list. She took it frowning. This is a lot. We can pay. That's not the issue. She glanced at Sahara and Luna. We don't usually serve their kind. Marcus felt his temper rise, but Sahara placed a gentle hand on his arm. Their kind, Sahara asked calmly. You mean women and children. You know what I mean. I do. And I think you mean humans who need flour and salt like anyone else. Mrs. Pritchard's face reddened. Don't get smart with me, Indian. My name is Mrs. Hayes, Sahara said. This is my daughter, Luna Hayes. We're customers in your store. You can serve us or lose our business, but you will speak to us with respect. The store had gone quiet. Other customers watching. Mrs. Pritchard looked to Marcus. You're going to let her talk to me like that? Like what? Like a woman who knows her worth? Yes. Someone snorted. Amusement or disgust, Marcus couldn't tell. Mrs. Pritchard slammed the list down. Get out. Gladly. Marcus turned to leave, but Luna pulled free from Sahara's hand. You're mean, Luna said to Mrs. Pritchard, and your store smells like old cheese. Someone definitely laughed this time. They left heads high, but Marcus could see the hurt in Luna's eyes, the tension in Sahara's shoulders. I'm sorry, he said once they were outside, for what you didn't do anything wrong, for bringing you here, for exposing Luna to that. Sahara stopped, turned to face him. Marcus, that woman's hatred isn't your fault. And Luna needs to know it exists, needs to learn to stand against it. She's 9. Apache girls don't get to be children very long. Before Marcus could respond, a voice called out, Mr. Hayes. They turned to see Thomas Bennett, who owned the other general store at the far end of town. He was younger, maybe 30, with kind eyes and ink-stained fingers from keeping the ledgers. I heard what happened, Bennett said. Please come to my store. I'll fill your order. We don't want trouble, Marcus said. Neither do I. But I served in the war, too. Different unit, but same idea. Fighting for what's right. Let me do a small right thing today. His store was smaller, but cleaner. He filled their order quickly, Even threw in some penny candy for Luna, who looked at it like treasure. "Thank you," Sahara said quietly. "My wife's Comanche," Bennett said. "Half anyway. We know how it is." As they loaded the wagon, a small crowd had gathered. Some faces were hostile, others curious, a few sympathetic. Marcus kept his hand near his rifle just in case. Then something unexpected happened. A young boy, maybe 12, broke from the crowd and approached Luna. "You're Apache?" he asked. Luna nodded, wary. "That's good. My grandpa said Apache are the best trackers. Can you track?" "Some." "Can you teach me?" Luna looked at her parents, then back at the boy. "Maybe." "I'm Pete. We got a ranch just outside town. You could come visit." His mother rushed forward, face tight with embarrassment. "Peter, come away." "But Ma." "Now." She dragged him off, but Pete waved at Luna, who waved back, a tiny smile on her face. "See," Sahara said. "Not everyone's afraid." They drove home in relative quiet, Luna clutching her candy, Sahara humming softly, Marcus trying to process the day. As they crested the ridge and the cabin came into view, Luna said, "That wasn't so bad." "No. The mean lady was mean, but Mr. Bennett was nice, and Pete wants to be friends. That's more good than bad." "That's one way to count it," Marcus agreed. That night, after Luna was asleep in her loft, Marcus and Sahara sat on the porch. The stars were bright, the air warm enough that they didn't need coats. "You were brave today," Marcus said, standing up to Mrs. Pritchard. "That wasn't brave. That was necessary." "Same thing sometimes." Sahara pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. "I've been called worse by better people. That doesn't make it right." "No. But it makes it survivable." She looked at him. "What about you? How do you survive being married to an Apache?" "Proudly." She smiled, but it was sad. "That's a pretty word. But pride doesn't stop bullets or change minds." "Maybe not, but it's better than shame." They sat quiet for a while. Then Sahara said, "Bennett's wife. Half Comanche." They looked happy. They did. "Do we?" Marcus considered. "We look careful." "Is that what we are? Careful, aren't we?" Sahara stood, moved to stand in front of him. The moonlight caught in her hair, turned her skin to silver. "I'm tired of careful." Sahara. "No, listen. We've been married 3 months. We sleep in the same bed. We're raising a child together. But you barely touch me." "I didn't want to push." "I'm not talking about pushing. I'm talking about wanting. Do you want me, Marcus?" The question hung between them like a challenge. "Yes," he said quietly. "Then why?" "Because wanting and taking are different things. Because you married me for protection, not love. Because every time I think about touching you, I remember you didn't choose this freely." Sahara knelt in front of him, took his face in her hands. "Marcus Hayes, you impossible man. I chose you. Maybe not the timing, maybe not the circumstances, but you? Yes. I choose you every morning when I wake up, every night when I could leave, but don't. You could leave. Of course I could leave. Take Luna, go to Joseph, disappear into the mountains. But I stay. Why do you think that is? I don't know. Because I'm falling in love with you, you fool." The words hit him like lightning. Love. Not the desperate love of youth he'd had with Sarah. Something different, quieter, deeper. "I don't know if I can love you back," he said honestly. "Not the way you deserve." "I'm not asking for the way I deserve. I'm asking for the way you can." She kissed him then, and this time he didn't hold back. His hands tangled in her hair, pulled her closer. She made a sound, half sigh, half sob, and climbed into his lap, straddling him on the porch chair. "Inside," she whispered against his mouth. They barely made it to the bed. 3 months of careful distance collapsed into desperate need. Her dress hit the floor. His shirt followed. When skin met skin, they both gasped. "Wait," Marcus said, pulling back. "Are you sure?" "Marcus, I swear if you ask me that one more time." He kissed her quiet, and after that, there were no more questions. Just answers their bodies had known all along. Later, much later, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling, breathing slowly returning to normal. That was worth waiting for, Sahara said. Was it? She laughed low and satisfied. Fishing for compliments. Maybe. She turned, propped herself on his chest. Marcus, that was exactly what I needed. Not perfect, not practiced. Real. Real is good. Real is everything. Luna's voice drifted down from the loft. Are you done being married now? Some of us are trying to sleep. They froze, mortified. How long have you been awake? Sahara called. Long enough to know I'm getting that brother sooner than expected. Marcus groaned, buried his face in the pillow, while Sahara shook with silent laughter. Go to sleep, Luna, Sahara managed. Finally came the response. They lay quiet for a moment. Then Sahara whispered, She's not wrong, you know. About the brother or sister. She placed his hand on her belly. The timing's right. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. Fear and hope in equal measure. You want that? I want everything. The whole life. The full family. The complete disaster of loving completely again. Even knowing what could happen. Especially knowing. Marcus, we can't live afraid of loss. We have to live, despite it. He pulled her close, breathed in the scent of her hair. Okay. Let's have everything. She kissed him soft and sure. Everything it is. Outside, an owl called. Inside, a new family settled into their first night of being truly together. Not perfect, not without ghosts, but real. And real, as Sahara said, was everything. Summer arrived with thunderstorms that shook the mountain and filled the creek to overflowing. Marcus stood knee-deep in the rushing water, teaching Luna to fish, while Sahara watched from the bank, her hand resting on her belly that had just begun to show. Patience, Marcus said, as Luna jerked her line too soon, missing another trout. Wait until you feel the pull, then count to 2. Fish don't wait, Luna protested. Fish have been waiting longer than people have been fishing. They know the game better than we do. Luna considered this, then cast again. This time, when the trout struck, she counted, then set the hook perfectly. The fish fought hard, but she brought it in grinning wide. I did it. You did. Can we eat it? What do you think? Luna studied the fish, then gently removed the hook and released it. Too small and too pretty. Marcus ruffled her hair. Good choice. They waded back to shore where Sahara had spread a blanket and unpacked lunch. As they ate, a rider approached from the valley trail. Marcus' tensed hand moving to the rifle, then relaxed. It was Joseph Sahara's Apache brother. Brother, Sahara called, standing carefully. Joseph dismounted, embraced her, gently mindful of her condition. His eyes took in everything. The pregnancy, Luna's wet clothes, Marcus's protective position. You look well, sister. I am well. Joseph turned to Marcus, extended his hand. Thank you. For what? For the news I bring not being necessary. He pulled out a letter. From the territorial governor. Full pardon for Sahara regarding McGrath's death. Judge Morrison pushed it through. Sahara sagged with relief. Marcus caught her, held her steady. It's over, she asked. That part is, Joseph said. But there's more. The reservation agent wants all Apache moved to San Carlos by winter. Says it's for protection. Whose protection? Marcus asked. Theirs, of course. Always theirs. Joseph's voice was bitter. Some will go. Others will fight. Others will disappear into the mountains. What will you do? Sahara asked. Mary's pregnant. We need stability. We'll go. Sahara's face crumpled. No, it's not forever. These things change like seasons. But for now, he looked at Luna, who was listening intently. For now, we survive. They spent the afternoon together, Joseph teaching Luna Apache hunting signs she didn't know, sharing news from the scattered bands. When he left at sunset, Sahara cried quietly into Marcus's shoulder. We're losing everyone, she whispered. You have us. It's not the same. I know. That night, Luna crawled into bed with them again. Not from nightmares this time, but from sadness. Will we have to go to the reservation too? She asked. No, Marcus said firmly. You're legally my daughter. They can't take you. But I'm still Apache. You're both, Apache and mine. That's your strength, not your weakness. Luna was quiet for a moment, then, the baby. Will it be Apache too? Half, Sahara said. Like you're half of two families now. That's a lot of halves. Makes a whole, Marcus said. Just takes different pieces. The next week brought unexpected visitors. Pete the boy from town arrived with his father, a weathered rancher named Carl. Hope we're not intruding, Carl said, hat in hand. Pete here wouldn't shut up about meeting your girl again. Marcus glanced at Sahara, who nodded slightly. Come in, Marcus said. The boys, Pete 12, Luna 9, immediately ran off to explore, leaving the adults on the porch. I'll be straight with you, Carl said. Half the town thinks you're crazy, or worse. Other half thinks you're brave or stupid. I think you're just folks trying to live. That's all we are, Sahara said. Well, my wife sends this. He pulled out a wrapped package. Baby clothes. Our youngest outgrew them. Figured you could use them. Sahara unwrapped the bundle. Tiny gowns, knitted blankets, cloth diapers. All well made, clean, carefully preserved. Thank you, she said, voice thick. Don't thank me. Thank Annie. She knows what it's like to be the odd one out. Her first husband was Mexican. Town gave her hell until I married her, made her respectable again. Carl spat tobacco juice. Respectability's overrated, you ask me. Pete and Luna returned covered in mud, grinning. She showed me how to track rabbits, Pete announced, and I taught her to whistle with grass. Useful skills, both, Carl said dryly. Pete, we should go. Can I come back? Carl looked at Marcus. If it's welcome. It's welcome. As they left, Pete called back. Next time I'll bring my sister. She's 7 and really annoying, but Luna might like her. Luna waved until they were out of sight, then turned to her parents. I have a friend. You do, Marcus agreed. A white friend who doesn't care that I'm Apache. Those are the best kind. More visitors came over the following weeks. Bennett from the store bringing supplies and news. Mary Joseph's wife, heavy with her own pregnancy, teaching Sahara Apache birthing songs. Even Judge Morrison's wife, a bird-like woman named Constance, who brought preserves and gossip in equal measure. Not everyone was welcoming. They found a dead coyote hung on their gate one morning, a clear threat. Someone poisoned their water barrel, though Marcus discovered it before anyone drank. Shots were fired over the cabin one night, meant to scare. Marcus reported each incident to Morrison, who could do little without proof. Want me to post a deputy? Morrison asked. No. That just makes us look weak. Pride's a poor shield against bullets. Sometimes pride's all we have. The tension broke in an unexpected way. Luna came down with fever again, this time worse. The medicine from town wasn't helping. Sahara tried every Apache remedy she knew. Nothing worked. Marcus was preparing to ride for the doctor when Mrs. Pritchard, the woman who'd refused them service, appeared at their door. I heard the girl was sick, she said stiffly. Come to gloat, Sahara asked, exhausted and harsh. Come to help. She pulled out a bottle. This is willow bark tincture, but concentrated different. My grandmother's recipe. German. It's saved my own children more than once. Sahara looked at Marcus, then back at Mrs. Pritchard. Why? Because I'm a Christian woman, whatever else I am, and children shouldn't suffer for adult foolishness. She set the bottle on the table. 3 drops in water every 4 hours. No more, or it'll make her sicker. She turned to leave, then stopped. I still don't approve. Mixed marriage raising that child between worlds, but... She glanced at Luna, fevered and small, in the big bed. But maybe my approval isn't necessary for doing right. The medicine worked. Luna's fever broke that night. Mrs. Pritchard never came back, but she nodded when they passed in town. It was something. As Sahara grew heavier with child, Marcus took on more of the daily work. Luna helped proud to be useful, carrying water-feeding chickens they'd acquired, helping harvest the small garden Sahara had planted. One evening, as they sat at dinner, Luna asked, "What if the baby doesn't like me?" "Why wouldn't the baby like you?" Sahara asked. "Because I'm not really yours. Either of you. I'm just borrowed." Marcus set down his fork. "Luna, look at me." She did, eyes wet. "You're not borrowed. You're not half anything. You're fully ours, fully yourself, fully loved. This baby will be lucky to have you as a sister." But what if? No what ifs. Only what is. And what is family. That night, Sahara went into labor. It started slow, back pain she dismissed as the burden of caring. But by midnight, the contractions were regular and strong. "Get Mary," she gasped between pains. "She's at the reservation. They all went last week." Fear flickered in Sahara's eyes. "Then you'll have to do it." "I don't know how." "You've delivered calves' horses. This isn't so different." It was completely different, but Marcus didn't argue. He sent Luna to fetch water, build up the fire, gather the clean cloth they'd prepared. The labor was long. Sahara was strong, but the baby was positioned wrong. Marcus remembered Sarah's labor, how the midwife had turned the baby. He tried to recall exactly what she'd done. "You have to turn it," Sahara panted. "I can feel it's wrong." Marcus's hands shook. "I could hurt you, the baby. We'll die if you don't try." Luna stood in the corner, eyes wide but steady. "Papa, you can do it. You saved me. Save them." Marcus prayed for the first time in 5 years, not to the God of his childhood, but to whatever force governed life and death on this mountain. Then he did what needed doing. The baby turned. Sahara screamed. Luna held her mother's hand, singing the Apache lullaby she'd learned. Then, just as dawn broke across Pine Ridge, their son was born. Healthy, loud, perfect. Marcus cut the cord with his hunting knife, sterilized in flame, wrapped the baby in one of the gowns Carl's wife had sent. He placed the child on Sahara's chest, and she wept with relief and joy. "What do we call him?" she asked. Marcus thought of all the names he'd imagined for the child Sarah never bore. But this wasn't that child. This was new. "Samuel," Luna said. "Like Mama's first husband. Like Judge Morrison. Samuel means God hears." "Samuel Hayes." Marcus agreed. "Sam." "A good name," Sahara murmured, already half asleep. As the sun rose full, Marcus stood on the porch with his son in his arms, Luna beside him. The baby was dark-haired like his mother, but had Marcus's blue eyes, a bridge between worlds. "He's small," Luna observed. "All babies are small." "Was I that small?" "Probably smaller. But I got bigger." "You did." "So will he." "Yes." Luna reached up, touched the baby's tiny fist. Sam grabbed her finger, held tight. "He knows me," she whispered, wonder in her voice. "Of course he does. You're his sister." Word of the birth spread. Visitors came with gifts, more baby clothes, preserved food, even a hand-carved cradle from Thomas Bennett. Pete and his sister Emma visited, and Emma declared the baby acceptable for a baby. But the best visitor came a month later. Joseph, Mary, and their newborn daughter arrived, having left the reservation despite orders. "Family should be together for naming ceremonies," Joseph said simply. They held the ceremony at sunset by the creek. Apache tradition and frontier practicality merged. Joseph sang the old songs. Morrison read from Ecclesiastes. Mary and Sahara blessed both babies with smoke from sage and sweetgrass. "These children," Joseph said in English so all could understand, "are born between worlds. Not fully Apache, not fully white, but that makes them bridges not broken. They will walk in both worlds and belong to the sky that covers all." Marcus held Sam while Sahara held Joseph's daughter. Luna stood between them, part of both families, belonging everywhere and nowhere all at once. "You did it," Morrison said quietly to Marcus as they watched the women sing over the babies. "Built a life worth living." "I had help." "We all do. The lucky ones admit it." That night, as their guests slept scattered through the cabin and yard, Marcus and Sahara lay with their children, Luna curled at their feet, like always Sam between them, tiny and perfect. "No regrets?" Sahara asked. "None. Only that it took so long to find you. Maybe it had to. Maybe we weren't ready before. Maybe." Sam fussed, and Sahara nursed him while humming. Luna scooted closer, one hand on the baby's back. "We're really a family," she murmured, mostly asleep. "Really," Marcus confirmed. Outside, the summer night was full of sounds. Crickets, owls, the distant howl of wolves. Inside, a family that shouldn't exist by any reasonable measure, breathed together in the darkness. Marcus thought of Sarah, of their lost child, of all the paths that had led to this moment. The grief was still there, would always be there, but it no longer defined him. It was just one part of a larger story. "Thank you," he whispered to the darkness, to Sarah's ghost, to whatever force had brought Sahara and Luna through that blizzard to his door. The darkness didn't answer, but Sam made a small, contented sound, and that was answer enough. They were family. Against all odds, across all divisions, despite all losses, they were family. And in the end, that was the only bridge that mattered. The drought started in late August. First, the creek slowed to a trickle, then to nothing but damp stones. The grass turned brown, brittle as old paper. The well water dropped daily, and Marcus knew they were living on borrowed time. "We need to move the cattle to the northern valley," he told Sahara one morning, watching their small herd crowd around the empty trough. "There's still water there, but not for long." "How do you know?" "The birds. They're all heading north. They know." Luna looked up from where she was playing with Sam on a blanket. At 6 months old, he could sit up now, grabbing at everything with chubby fingers. "Will we have to leave too?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "We'll find a way." But privately, he worried. He'd seen droughts before, seen families broken by them, scattered like seeds on hard ground. The cabin's well was deep, but not infinite, and with a baby, they couldn't risk running dry. That afternoon, riders approached. Not the usual visitors. These were strangers, hard-faced men with badges and paperwork. "Federal agents," the lead man announced. "Looking for Apache holdouts who refused relocation." "No Apache here," Marcus said, standing on the porch rifle, visible but not raised. The agent's eyes went to Sahara in the doorway, to Luna beside her. "That's so. My wife and daughter are legal residents. I have the papers." "Half-breeds don't count as residents," another agent said. "They're still Indian." Marcus felt his temper rise. "My wife is my wife. My daughter is my daughter. That's all that matters." "Not according to new regulations. All Apache blood, full or partial, needs to be accounted for. Accounted for, registered, in case of uprising." "What uprising? They're on reservations dying of fever and starvation." The lead agent dismounted, walked closer. Marcus saw Sahara move Sam deeper into the cabin, saw Luna's hand go to the knife on her belt. When had she started carrying a knife? "Mr. Hayes," the agent said quietly, "I know who you are. War hero, Medal of Honor. That carries weight, but not enough to protect harboring hostiles. Hostiles, a woman and 2 children. Apache women fought at Apache Pass. Apache children grow into Apache warriors. My son is 6 months old. Still counts." Marcus stepped forward close enough to smell the tobacco on the man's breath. "Get off my land." "Or what? Or I stop being polite about it." The agents exchanged glances. They were 3 against 1, but something in Marcus's eyes made them reconsider. "We'll be back," the lead agent said, "with proper warrants." "You do that." They rode off, and Marcus knew the real trouble was just beginning. That night, he and Sahara held council after the children slept. "We could run," Sahara said. "Go to Mexico. Start over. Running means looking over our shoulders forever. Better than Sam growing up on a reservation. We don't run. We fight." "How? With what army?" Before Marcus could answer, Luna's voice came from the loft. "With friends." "You're supposed to be sleeping," Sahara scolded. "Can't sleep when you're talking about leaving." She climbed down, faced them with 9-year-old determination. "Pete's father has influence. Mr. Bennett, too. Judge Morrison. If we get them all together—" "Luna, this is adult business," Marcus started. "No, it's family business. And I'm family." She crossed her arms. "We need witnesses. White witnesses who'll say we're good people." "That's how it works, right? Their word against the agents." Marcus and Sahara looked at each other. The child wasn't wrong. "It's more complicated than that," Sahara said. "Everything's complicated. Doesn't mean we don't try." The next morning, Marcus rode to town while Sahara prepared. If they had to run, they'd be ready. But Luna was already implementing her own plan. She walked, alone without permission, the 5 miles to Pete's ranch. "Luna." Annie, Pete's mother, gasped when she appeared. "What are you doing here? I need help. Please." Within an hour, Annie had gathered a dozen women at her kitchen table. Some Marcus and Sahara knew, others were strangers, but they all listened as Luna, in her clear child's voice, explained about the agents, about the threat to her family. "They want to take my brother because he's part Apache. He's a baby. How is a baby dangerous?" Mrs. Pritchard was there, the woman who'd once refused them service. She'd been silent through Luna's story, but now she stood. "This is wrong," she said simply. "I don't approve of mixing races, Lord knows. But taking babies, registering Americans like cattle, that's not Christian." "What can we do?" Annie asked. "We make noise," Mrs. Pritchard said. "Lots of noise." Meanwhile, Marcus found Judge Morrison in his office with unexpected company. Colonel Patterson from Fort Carson, the new territorial governor, James Whitman, and, surprisingly, Thomas Bennett. "Marcus," Morrison stood. "We were just discussing you." "Nothing good, I'm sure." "On the contrary," Governor Whitman said. He was younger than Marcus expected, with intelligent eyes. "Morrison's been telling me about your situation. These federal agents are exceeding their authority. They have badges. Badges don't mean unlimited power. The Apache Exclusion Act applies to reservation territories, not to legally married citizens. My wife isn't a citizen." "No, but she's under your protection as a married woman." "Old law, but still valid." Colonel Patterson leaned forward. "Hayes, I knew your commanding officer, Colonel Mitchell. He wrote about you, said you were the best soldier he ever commanded." "That was a long time ago. Character doesn't change, which is why I'm prepared to post soldiers to protect your family until this is resolved." "I don't need—" "It's not about need," Morrison interrupted. "It's about making a statement. These agents think they can intimidate isolated families. They need to learn otherwise." That evening, Marcus returned home to find his yard full of wagons. Half the women in town were there, led by Annie and, shockingly, Mrs. Pritchard. They'd brought food, water barrels, and determination. "What's happening?" he asked Sahara. "Luna happened," she said, pride and exasperation mixing in her voice. She walked to town alone, gathered an army of mothers. Luna stood with Pete and Emma, organizing younger children into water-hauling teams. "She's 9, Marcus said, amazed. "She's Apache," Sahara corrected. "We learn young to fight with whatever weapons we have." The federal agents returned 3 days later to find not an isolated cabin, but a fortress of community. 20 women, a dozen children, and surprisingly 6 soldiers from Fort Carson stood waiting. The lead agent's face went red. "This is federal business. This is family business," Mrs. Pritchard said, stepping forward. "And we're all family here. You're harboring—" "We're having a quilting bee," Annie interrupted. "Would you like to see our quilts?" The women held up various quilting projects, faces innocent, but eyes hard. Colonel Patterson approached the agents. "Gentlemen, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Mrs. Hayes and her children are under military protection as family of a decorated veteran. That's not how the law—" "Perhaps you'd like to discuss the law with Governor Whitman. He's particularly interested in federal overreach in territorial matters." The agents looked at the crowd, soldiers, townswomen, children of all ages. Luna stood between Pete and Emma Sam in her arms, looking for all the world like any American family. "This isn't over," the lead agent said. "No." Marcus agreed, stepping forward. "It's not, because if you come for my family again, you'll find more than quilters waiting." The agents left, but everyone knew they'd be back. The question was when, and with what force? That night the drought broke with violence. Not rain, but something worse. Lightning without water. The strikes came fast, and within minutes the ridge was on fire. "Get the children to the creek bed," Marcus shouted over the roar of flames. The fire moved faster than seemed possible, driven by winds that had been building all day. The dry grass went up like paper, the trees like torches. "The cabin," Sahara screamed. "Leave it. Get Sam and Luna out." But Luna was already moving not away, but toward the barn where the horses were screaming. "Luna, no!" Marcus ran after her, but Pete was faster, reaching her first. "I'll get the horses, you get your family," the boy shouted, already lifting the barn latch. The horses burst out wild with fear. One knocked Pete down, and Luna pulled him clear just before another's hooves would have crushed him. "The Northern Trail," Marcus shouted. "Everyone to the Northern Trail." They ran through smoke and falling ash, Sam wailing, Luna pulling Pete, who was limping now. The fire chased them, consuming everything they'd built. They made it to the creek bed, where others were already gathering. The soldiers, some townspeople who'd been caught visiting. The fire roared above them, but the rocky creek bed provided shelter. "Stay low," Colonel Patterson ordered. "Breathe through wet cloth." Sahara had grabbed blankets in their escape. They soaked them in the puddles of remaining creek water, covered the children. The fire burned through the night. When dawn came, the ridge was unrecognizable. Black skeletal trees, smoking ground, and where their cabin had been, nothing but charred foundation stones. Marcus stood at the ruins. Sam in his arms, Sahara and Luna beside him. Everything they'd built gone. "Papa." Luna's voice was small. "What do we do now?" Before he could answer, wagons began arriving. First Annie and Carl, then the Bennetts, then others, even Mrs. Pritchard. "You'll stay with us," Annie said simply. "We don't have room." "But," Marcus started. "Not us individually, us collectively, the whole town. We've discussed it." Judge Morrison arrived on horseback. "The church is empty. You can stay there until we rebuild." "Rebuild?" Sahara asked. "Your cabin. Did you think we'd let you face this alone?" Marcus felt his throat tighten. "We can't accept." "You can and you will," Mrs. Pritchard said firmly. "You're part of this community, like it or not." Over the next days, the scope of the disaster became clear. The fire had burned 3 ranches, including Pete's family's place. But no one had died. The warning had come in time. "It was Luna," Pete told everyone who'd listen. "She smelled the smoke, first started yelling. Saved my whole family." The federal agents returned during the chaos, but found something unexpected. The entire town rallied around the Hayes family. The fire had done what arguments couldn't, made them all survivors together. "You're ordering American citizens from their homes during a natural disaster," Governor Whitman asked the agents. He'd come personally when he heard. "That's your priority. The law. The law serves people, not the other way around. These people have lost everything. If you try to separate this family now, you'll have a revolt on your hands." The lead agent looked around at the crowd gathered in the burned field where rebuilding had already begun. Soldiers and townspeople working side by side. Apache women from the reservation who'd come to help. Children of all colors hauling water and supplies. The registration, "I'll handle the registration," Whitman said. "Mrs. Hayes and her children are registered as residents of Colorado Territory under my authority. Any questions can be directed to my office." It wasn't a permanent solution, but it bought time. The rebuilding took 2 months. Not just one cabin, but 3. The Hayes family, Pete's family, and another ranch family who'd lost everything. The cabins were built close enough to share defense, but far enough for privacy. Marcus tried to pay for materials, but Morrison wouldn't hear it. "You stood for us during the war. We stand for you now." The new cabin was bigger, stronger. It had a stone foundation that wouldn't burn, thick logs that would last generations. The women had sewn curtains. The men had built furniture. Pete and Luna had carved their initials in the doorframe. P&L Fire Survivors, 1871. The night they moved in, Sahara stood in the main room, Sam on her hip, Luna beside her. "It's different," she said. "Better different or worse?" Marcus asked. "Just different. But maybe that's good. We're different too." She was right. The fire had burned away more than wood and grass. It had burned away isolation pretense, the idea that they could survive alone. "Do you miss the old cabin?" Luna asked. Marcus thought about it. The old cabin had been his retreat, his place to hide from the world. This new one was built by community, visible from the road connected to others. "No," he said, surprising himself. That cabin was about being alone. This one's about being together. That night, their first in the new home, people came to celebrate. Apache from the reservation townspeople who'd once shunned them soldiers from the fort. They brought food music stories. Judge Morrison raised a glass to the Hayes family. "May your roots grow deep and your branches spread wide." To survival, Joseph added, having come despite reservation restrictions. To community, Annie said. To stubbornness, Mrs. Pritchard said, making everyone laugh. Marcus raised his own glass, looking at his family. Sahara proud and strong, Luna growing so fast, Sam laughing at the noise and light. To second chances, he said, and third ones, and as many as it takes. They drank, and the party continued late into the night. Apache drums mixed with fiddle music. Children ran between languages and cultures. Sam was passed from arm to arm, loved by all. At one point, Marcus found himself outside with Colonel Patterson. "The agents will be back," Patterson said quietly. "I know. The political winds are shifting. This registration idea, it won't last. Too expensive, too unpopular. But until it dies, you'll be a target. We're ready." Patterson looked at the party visible through the windows. "Yes, I believe you are. You've done something remarkable here, Hayes." "What's that?" "You've made them see your family as human. That's harder than any battle." Later, as the party wound down and guests departed, Luna fell asleep on the new rug before the fireplace. Marcus carried her to her bed, her own room now, with a window facing the mountains. "Papa," she murmured. "Yeah." "The fire was scary." "I know. But look what came after." He looked around the new room built by many hands, filled with gifts from people who'd once been strangers or enemies. "Yeah," he agreed. "Look what came after." In their bed, Sahara curled against him, Sam between them in his cradle. "We almost lost everything," she whispered, "but we didn't." How did we get so lucky? Marcus thought about it. Luck seemed too small a word for what had happened. They'd been tested by drought fire and human hatred. They'd survived not through strength alone, but through connections they hadn't known they were building. Maybe it wasn't luck, he said. Maybe it was Luna. Luna. She never saw the divisions we did. To her, Pete was just a boy who wanted to learn tracking. Mrs. Pritchard was just a mean lady who could become nice. She treated everyone like potential family. Children see clearer sometimes. Or maybe they see what could be instead of what is. Sahara traced patterns on his chest. The agents will come back. Let them. We have something now we didn't before. What? Proof. Of what? That Apache and white Mexican and Chinese, all of us. We can be one people when we choose. The fire didn't care about our blood. Neither did the people who came to help. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall, covering the burned land in white. Come spring, grass would grow from the ash greener than before. The trees would send up shoots. Life would return stronger for having survived the burning. "I love you," Sahara said suddenly. "I don't think I've said it enough. You show it every day. Still, words matter too. Then I love you too. You and Luna and Sam. My whole unlikely family." They slept then while snow erased the scars of fire and prepared the ground for new growth. The crisis had passed, but its lessons remained. They were stronger together than apart, and that strength had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with choice. The federal agents never returned. Governor Whitman's protection held, and eventually the registration requirement was quietly dropped. But the bonds forged in fire remained. And in the new cabin built by many hands, a family that shouldn't exist continued to thrive, proof that love could bridge any divide if people were brave enough to cross it. Spring came with unusual warmth that year, melting the snow fast enough to flood the lower valleys. Marcus stood with Luna on the hill overlooking their land, teaching her to read the water patterns. "See how it pools there," he pointed. "That's where we'll dig the new irrigation channels. For Mama's garden, for more than that. We're going to plant wheat, corn, enough to feed ourselves and sell." Luna squinted at the land. "That's a lot of work. That's why we're not doing it alone." The community barn raising was scheduled for next week, but this was different. This was the first cooperative farm in the valley. White families, Mexican settlers, and the Apache who'd returned from the reservation would work the land together, share the harvest. "Papa, why did some Apache come back?" "The reservation was killing them. Disease, starvation. Joseph says half the children died this winter." Luna was quiet for a moment. "We were lucky." "No, we were prepared, and we had help." That afternoon, Governor Whitman arrived with unexpected news. He found Marcus and Sahara working in the garden, Sam toddling between the rows, eating more dirt than helping. "The Apache Registration Act has been formally repealed," Whitman announced without preamble. Sahara dropped her hoe. "What? Congress killed it. Too expensive, too much resistance. Effective immediately, Apache women married to citizens and their children are full residents. No registration, no forced relocation." Sahara sat down hard on a wooden crate, hands shaking. "It's over. This part is." Marcus helped her up, felt her trembling. "Why now?" Whitman smiled slightly. "Your story helped. Morrison has been writing letters, sending them east. The fire, the community response, the cooperative farm. It's been in newspapers from Denver to Washington. The family that united a divided town." "We didn't unite anything," Marcus protested. "We just survived." "Sometimes that's the same thing." After Whitman left, they stood in the garden trying to absorb the news. Sam pulled at Sahara's skirt, wanting attention. "Mama, up." She lifted him, kissed his dusty face. "We're free, little one. Really free." "We were always free," Luna said. "Papers don't change that." "No, but they make others recognize it," Marcus said. The barn raising became a celebration. Over 100 people came more than expected. They raised not just a barn, but 3. One for grain storage, one for equipment, one for gatherings. Judge Morrison organized the workers. Pete and Luna, now inseparable friends, ran water to the builders. Sahara and the other women cooked massive meals. Even Mrs. Pritchard, now firmly an ally, bossed everyone around with efficient kindness. "Never thought I'd see the day," Carl told Marcus as they hoisted a beam. "Apache and White working together like this. It's not about Apache or White, it's about neighbors." When did we become that? Marcus thought about it. The night of the fire, when your boy risked his life for our horses, when Luna pulled him from their hooves. When we all stood in that creek bed, breathing smoke together. That's when. Joseph had come with Mary and their daughter, despite technically violating reservation boundaries. No one was enforcing them anymore. Too many had left returned to traditional lands or disappeared into Mexico. "You did something important here," Joseph told Marcus that evening. "We survived. More than that, you showed them we're human. That's harder than any war victory." As the sun set, they gathered in the new barn for dinner. Apache, Mexican, white, and Chinese families. The Changs had arrived last month, opening a laundry in town. All sharing food, children playing together. Thomas Bennett stood to speak. "A year ago, most of us wouldn't have been in the same room. Now look at us. We're not just neighbors. We're partners." "To the cooperative," someone shouted. "To the future," another added. Marcus stood, Sam in his arms, Luna beside him. "To choosing each other again and again, no matter what comes." The toast was drunk, but the evening's surprises weren't over. An old Apache woman entered the barn, accompanied by two younger men. The room went quiet. She was dressed traditionally, face-painted for ceremony, carrying a staff decorated with feathers and bones. "Grandmother singing bird," Joseph whispered, standing respectfully. She walked directly to Sahara, spoke in rapid Apache. Sahara's eyes widened, then filled with tears. "What's she saying?" Marcus asked. She says the Council of Grandmothers has decided. They're adopting you into the clan. You'll be Apache legally and spiritually. You and the children. But I'm white. You're the father of Apache children, husband to an Apache woman. You've proven yourself." The ceremony was performed there in a barn built by many hands. Singing bird painted Marcus's face with ochre, sang over him in words older than memory. She gave Luna an Apache name, she who bridges worlds. Sam became born from ashes. "And you," she said to Marcus in broken English, "you are man who stands between." "Between what?" "Between worlds, between past and future. Between what was and what could be." She touched his chest. "Heart of warrior, spirit of peace. This is good." The ceremony ended with everyone, Apache white all, dancing to drums and fiddles, a mixture of traditions that shouldn't work, but did. Later, Marcus found himself outside with Judge Morrison watching the celebration through the barn doors. "You know what you've started here?" Morrison asked. "Trouble, probably. Change. Real change. There's talk of you running for territorial legislature." Marcus laughed. "I'm a farmer. You're a symbol." "I don't want to be a symbol." "Too late. That family in there, Apache wife, mixed children, built by community after disaster. That's the future, whether people are ready or not. Then they'll have to get ready, because we're not going anywhere." The next months brought unexpected prosperity. The cooperative farm's first harvest was abundant. The shared labor meant shared success. Families that had been struggling alone thrived together. Luna started school in town, the first Apache child to attend. There was resistance at first, but Pete and Emma flanked her that first day, daring anyone to complain. By month's end, she was helping other students with mathematics, her quick mind obvious to all. "She's brilliant," the teacher, Miss Catherine, told Marcus. "She could go to college someday." An Apache girl in college. A brilliant girl in college. The rest is just details. Sam grew strong and wild, toddling after Luna, mixing Apache and English words in sentences that made everyone laugh. He looked more like Marcus as he grew. Blue eyes, stubborn chin, but moved like Sahara, all grace and purpose. One evening, as summer turned to fall, they received unexpected visitors. Sarah's parents, the Reverend Mills, and his wife, whom Marcus hadn't seen since the funeral. "We heard," Reverend Mills said simply, "about your new family." Marcus tensed, ready for judgment, but Mrs. Mills stepped forward and took Sahara's hands. "We wanted to meet the woman who brought him back to life," she said, tears in her eyes. "Sarah would be glad." "You don't know that," Marcus said roughly. "I do," Reverend Mills said. "She loved you enough to want your happiness, even if it couldn't be with her." They stayed 3 days. Mrs. Mills taught Sahara to make Sarah's cornbread recipe. Reverend Mills played with Sam, delighted by the boys' mixed vocabulary. They treated Luna as a granddaughter, which she accepted with cautious joy. "You've built something beautiful here," Mrs. Mills said before leaving. "Different than what we imagined, but beautiful nonetheless." The year turned toward winter again, but this time they were ready. Food stored, wood-stacked, community connections strong. The cooperative had produced enough that every family would eat well through the cold months. One night, as snow began to fall, Marcus woke to find Sahara sitting by the window, Sam asleep in her arms. "Can't sleep," thinking. About how we got here. A year ago, we were strangers. I was running for my life. You were hiding from yours. And now we're home." Marcus joined her at the window, looking out at the snow-covered land. In the distance, he could see lights from other cabins. Pete's family, the Chang's others, who'd built near them for safety and companionship. "I'm pregnant again," Sahara said quietly. Marcus's heart stopped, then raced. "When?" "Summer, probably. Luna says it's a girl. She claims she knows these things." "She might. She knew about Sam." "Are you happy?" Marcus turned her face to his, kissed her gently. "Happy doesn't cover it." "Scared. That too." "Good. Means you care." They went back to bed, Sam between them, Luna's soft snoring from her room. A family complete but still growing. The next morning brought a letter from Washington. The president himself had heard their story, was citing them as an example of American unity in his speeches about Reconstruction and reconciliation. "We're famous," Luna said, reading over Marcus's shoulder. "We're examples," Marcus corrected, of what's possible when people choose love over fear. That's a lot of pressure. That's why we share it, all of us, the whole community. Spring came again, and with it, Sahara's labor. This time, they had help. Mrs. Mills had returned for the birth, along with Mary and several other women. Marcus was banished to the porch, with the other men traditional roles asserting themselves despite everything. "It's harder the second time," Carl said, passing him whiskey. "You know what can go wrong." But nothing went wrong. The baby came fast and healthy, screaming loud enough to scare the horses. A girl, as Luna had predicted. "What do we name her?" Sahara asked, exhausted but glowing. "Hope," Luna said immediately. "Hope Sarah Hayes." Marcus's throat tightened. Sarah's name carried forward not as ghost, but as blessing. "Hope it is," he agreed. As they settled into life as a family of 5, Marcus realized the crisis had truly passed. Not just the external threats, the agents, the fire, the drought, but the internal ones. The fear that he couldn't love again, that Sahara was just convenience, that the children would suffer between worlds. Instead, they thrived. Luna won the territorial spelling bee. Sam learned to ride before he could properly run. Hope grew fat and happy, loved by all. The cooperative expanded, bringing in more families. The town grew shaped by the values they'd forged in crisis. Integration wasn't perfect, but it was real, worked out in daily interactions rather than grand gestures. One evening, as Marcus sat on the porch watching his children play, Luna teaching Sam to track rabbits, Hope laughing in Sahara's arms, Judge Morrison rode up. "Still want you to run for legislature," he said. "Still not interested. Even to protect families like yours." Marcus considered. "There are other families like ours. More every day. Mixed marriages, adopted children, people choosing connection over division. They need a voice." "I'll think about it," Morrison smiled. "That's all I ask." As he rode away, Sahara joined Marcus on the porch. "You should do it," she said. "Run for office. Be the voice. You've already been the example. It would mean time away, travel, danger maybe. We're strong enough now. The community will help." Marcus pulled her close, breathed in the sage and sunshine scent of her hair. "When did we become leaders?" "The moment we chose to stand instead of run." That night, as they tucked the children into bed, Luna asked, "Are we going to be okay? Really okay. Marcus looked at his daughter. Apache, white, brilliant, brave. We're better than okay. We're together. Forever. Nothing's forever, but for all the time we get. She nodded, satisfied. That's enough. And it was. They'd been tested by everything. Nature law, prejudice loss. They'd survived, and more than survived. They'd shown a divided territory how to unite one family at a time. The revival wasn't just of their family, but of an entire community's ability to see beyond blood to belonging. And that revival, like spring after winter, would continue long after they were gone. Seeds planted in crisis, blooming into unimaginable beauty. 5 years had passed since the fire, since the rebuilding, since hope was born. Pine Ridge had transformed from a lonely mountain outpost into a thriving community of interconnected farms and families. Marcus stood in the same spot where he'd once found Luna hiding in Devil's Cave, but now she stood beside him, 14 years old, tall and strong, teaching Sam how to read animal tracks in the snow. See the spacing? Luna pointed. That tells you if it was running or walking. Running from what? Sam asked, now 6 all curiosity and energy. Maybe from nothing. Maybe just running for joy. Hope, 4 years old, rode on Marcus's shoulders, her hands tangled in his hair, singing an Apache lullaby Sahara had taught her. She had Marcus's blue eyes, but Sahara's spirit wild and free. Papa, why are we here? Hope asked. To remember, Marcus said, and to celebrate. Today marked 10 years since that blood trail in the snow had changed everything. The community had decided to make it a celebration, not of violence or fear, but of how strangers became family. They walked back to find the valley transformed. Tables stretched between the cabins, loaded with food from every culture present. Apache fry bread, Mexican tamales, Chinese dumplings, German strudel from Mrs. Pritchard's kitchen. The barn they'd built together had been decorated with quilts telling the story of their community, each square sewn by different hands. There must be 200 people here, Sahara said, finding Marcus in the crowd. She carried their youngest 2-year-old David, named for Marcus's father, who died before he could meet his mixed heritage grandchildren. More coming, Judge Morrison said, approaching with Governor Whitman. The story spread. Families from Denver, Santa Fe, even California. Mixed families who heard about this place where difference is strength. Marcus had eventually run for the territorial legislature, won by a landslide. He'd helped pass laws protecting mixed marriages, ensuring children couldn't be taken based on blood alone. But his greatest achievement wasn't legal. It was this gathering, this proof that America could be what it promised, united from many. Papa speech, Luna called out, and others took up the cry. Marcus tried to protest, but Sahara pushed him gently toward the makeshift platform. He stood looking at the crowd, faces of every shade, children who didn't see the divisions their parents had been raised, with families that shouldn't exist, but did. 10 years ago, he began, I was a dead man walking. I'd lost everything, come to this mountain to fade away. Then a little Apache girl stumbled into my life, bleeding and scared, followed by her mother, fierce and desperate. He found Sahara's eyes in the crowd, saw her smile. I thought I was saving them, but they saved me. They brought me back to life, gave me purpose, showed me that family isn't just blood. It's choice made daily, especially when it's hard. Luna stood taller, proud. We've faced drought fire, federal agents, and our own prejudices. We've buried friends and birthed babies. We've failed and tried again. And through it all, we've proven something important. We're stronger together than apart. Old grandmother singing bird, 90 now, but still sharp, called out in Apache. Joseph translated, she says the spirits are pleased. The bridge has been built. What bridge? Someone asked. Between worlds, Marcus said, between past and future, between what America was and what it could be. Our children are that bridge. He looked at Luna, who'd been accepted to a teacher's college back east, the first Apache woman to attend, at Sam, who spoke 3 languages and wanted to be a doctor, at Hope, who drew pictures that captured souls, at David, too young to know he was impossible by old standards. People ask me how we did it, Marcus continued, how we united a divided town. The answer is simple: we didn't have a choice. Crisis demanded cooperation. Fire didn't care about skin color. Drought didn't respect bloodlines. We survived because we chose each other. Thomas Bennett stood up. To choosing each other. The toast was echoed in multiple languages. Then Pete, now 19 and engaged to a Mexican girl named Rosa, called out, "Tell them about the wedding." Marcus laughed. "Which one? Yours and Mrs. Hayes's real one." Sahara joined him on the platform, David on her hip. "We were married by law 10 years ago," she said, "for protection for papers. But tonight we marry again, for love, for choice, for the example." The crowd erupted. This had been kept secret, planned by Luna and the other children. Reverend Mills, now 80, but still strong, stepped forward. "I married Marcus to his first wife, Sarah, 20 years ago. Tonight, I'm honored to bless this union that Sarah herself would celebrate." Joseph came forward with traditional Apache wedding clothes. Mary helped Sahara change while the men prepared Marcus. When they emerged, the crowd gasped. They looked like what they were, a bridge between worlds. The ceremony blended everything: Apache blessings, Christian vows, Mexican music, Chinese firecrackers. Luna stood as maid of honor, Sam as best man, Hope as flower girl throwing sage and rose petals, David sleeping through it all. "Do you, Marcus Hayes, take this woman again, freely, proudly, eternally?" "I do, again and always." "Do you, Sahara Hayes, take this man again, knowing all his ghosts, accepting all his scars?" "I do. He's home." "Then by the power vested in me by God, the territory of Colorado, and this community of witnesses, I pronounce you truly, fully, finally married." They kissed, and the celebration exploded. Music, dancing, children running wild with joy. The party would last until dawn, stories told and retold, bonds strengthened. But Marcus and Sahara slipped away to the hill, overlooking it all. They sat on the same rock where Marcus had once sat alone, planning to die slowly. "Did you imagine this?" Sahara asked. "When you built that first cabin?" "Never. I couldn't imagine past the next sunrise." "And now I see generations. Luna's children, Sam's hopes. All of them growing up in a world where mixing isn't strange, but normal. We won't live to see it all." "No, but we started it." They watched their children in the crowd below. Luna dancing with a young Apache man who'd been courting her carefully. Sam explaining something scientific to a group of fascinated younger kids. Hope painting faces, turning white children into warriors, Apache children into angels. "Your first wife would be proud," Sahara said suddenly. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I dream about her sometimes. She's holding the baby that died, but she's smiling. She tells me she's glad I found you." "You believe in such dreams." "I believe in what they mean. That love doesn't die, it transforms. That Sarah's love led me to you, and ours will lead our children to their futures." A sound made them turn. Luna had climbed the hill, bringing her siblings. "We wanted to thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For choosing each other when it was dangerous. For showing us that love is braver than fear." Sam nodded. "Kids at school ask how a white man and Apache woman could work. I tell them it's like farming. Different seeds in the same soil, making the harvest richer." Hope, always direct, said, "You gave us a world where we fit." David awakened, and Cranky just reached for his parents. They gathered their children close, 5 hearts beating as one. "Look!" Luna pointed to the valley. The celebration continued below, but now they could see other lights. Camps of travelers who'd come to witness this place where the impossible became every day. Some would stay, adding their stories to the mix. Others would leave carrying the message that America's promise could be kept. "We did something important here," Marcus said. We lived, Sahara corrected, fully, bravely together. As they walked back down to rejoin the celebration, Luna asked, "What happens next?" Marcus looked at his family, his Apache wife, his brilliant mixed heritage children, his community of every color below. 10 years ago, he'd been alone, broken, waiting to die. Now he was patriarch of a new kind of American family, one that proved the nation's highest ideals. Whatever comes, he said, we face it together. All of us, Hope asked. All of us. Family by choice, united by love, stronger for our differences. The music swelled as they returned. Pete grabbed Luna for a dance. Sam was pulled into a debate about irrigation. Hope ran to paint more faces. David fell asleep again in Sahara's arms. Marcus stood watching it all, and for a moment he felt Sarah's presence, not sad, not haunting, but peaceful, as if she was saying, "This is what I wanted for you. This is worth living for." Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would always be those who hated difference, feared change. But tonight, in this valley that had seen so much transformation, hundreds of people celebrated the simple, revolutionary act of choosing each other. The stars came out bright and eternal. Somewhere coyotes howled, but not in threat, in recognition that the world was changing. On Pine Ridge, where a broken soldier had once come to die, a new kind of America was being born, one family at a time. Marcus pulled Sahara close, kissed her forehead, ready for the next 10 years, ready for forever. Nothing's forever. No, she agreed, but love echoes forward. What we've built here will outlive us. She was right. 50 years later, their grandchildren would tell this story. 100 years later, it would be taught in schools. The cabin would become a monument, the valley a symbol. But tonight, it was just home, just family, just proof that in America, e pluribus unum, from many one, wasn't just a motto, but a possibility written in the choices of ordinary people, brave enough to love across every boundary. The music played on. The children danced. The future bloomed from seeds planted in crisis and watered with tears, laughter, and unshakable hope. This was their story. This was America's story. This was just the beginning.